Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're talking about what to do when things get lost. Have you ever had a situation where you purchased something and then couldn't find it, so you went out and bought another one? It happened to me. I couldn't find my tape measure. I thought it was in my toolbox, and eventually I needed it, so I went out and bought another one. A few weeks later, I found my tape measure. Now I've got two. The latest bit of insanity to come out of Albany, New York, is a proposed new bureaucracy. Earlier this week, New York State Senate Deputy Leader Mike Gianaris joined a group called the Neighbors Beyond Amazon Coalition to launch a new platform of policy proposals aimed at improving New York's economic development climate. Senator Gianaris is leading the way with legislation that would require a social impact study for any major economic development project. In his news release, he's quoted as saying, "For too long, we funded economic development without considering the impact it has on our neighborhoods. It's time to change that and insist on development that helps our communities rather than hurts them. We must prioritize the benefit of everyday people, not just wealthy interests." Senator Gianaris' new legislation would require a social impact study, similar to the currently required environmental impact study, to be completed before major economic development projects are undertaken. This would give communities a chance to understand the need for addressing housing and transportation before funding is permitted. Quite frankly, I believe Senator Gianaris has this dead wrong. It's inconceivable that any major project gets undertaken in the state of New York without involving a zoning application. The zoning process is a 5-step process. It's required for anything that does not fit in the criteria of being built by right. The final review process, once all the applications have been submitted, is also a 6-step process called the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure. It involves a certification process, a community review board, that's a public hearing, a review by the borough president, the City Planning Commission review, a review by City Council, and finally a review by the mayor. Within 60 days of receiving the certified application, the community board is required to hold a public hearing and adopt and submit a written recommendation to the City Planning Commission, the borough president, and where appropriate, the borough board. That entire process takes 265 days. The Uniform Land Use Review process includes provisions relating to the notice of conduct for the community board hearing. It also has provisions to govern the quorum, the vote, and the content of the review board recommendation. The community board process consists of public hearings where, if anything, the social impact of a project would get plenty of airtime. The community would have tons of opportunity to voice their input on a project. The senator is concerned with the financial impact on infrastructure for any planned project. Now, it seems to me that the City Planning Commission, City Council, and the mayor are already tasked and mandated with managing those aspects of the impact of a project. That's why those organizations exist. If you look at 90% of the work of any city council anywhere in North America, it's all related to land use. The City Council meeting minutes, they're a matter of public record. You can go on the website of virtually any city in America and read the meeting minutes. In some cases, you can hear the actual audio recording of the council meetings, and others show a full video recording of the council meetings. And if you aspire to undertake any form of development, I really encourage you to get very familiar with the way City Council operates in your community of interest. Now, Senator Gianaris is basically saying the communities need a chance to understand the need for housing and transportation before major projects are approved. He seems to have forgotten the mandate of the duly elected officials at the city. The review process already is a 265-day process. That's, of course, assuming no delays and no resubmission of information. And if an environmental impact study is required, you can add a minimum of 110 days to the process. That's the minimum. That's the fastest the process could ever be. And if you're required to perform a traffic study, you can add another several months. Oh, and by the way, the environmental impact study, if you look at Chapter 5, already deals with social and economic impact. It lays out the rules for conducting a social impact study in addition to the environmental impact study. Socioeconomic assessment should be conducted if a project may be reasonably expected to create socioeconomic changes within the area affected by the project that would not be expected to occur without the project. There's other chapters that deal with water and sewer infrastructure, solid waste and sanitation, energy, transportation, air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, noise, public health, and neighborhood character. These would be all of the things that I think Senator Gianaris is looking for in a socioeconomic impact assessment. It's already part of the environmental assessment process. The whole thing reminds me of the time when I lost my tape measure. The solution was to go out and buy another one. Or was it? Our legal system is so stuffed with regulations that our own lawmakers have no idea what's in there. Rather than go look for what's already there, they decide to go create an entirely new bureaucracy. If the one that's currently there has imperfections, perhaps some minor policy changes would be sufficient, rather than creating an entirely new bureaucracy. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.